when you do English paper piecing, like this inner city block just there, you want the stitches in between your shapes, the hexagons in this particular instance, to be completely invisible. But how do you do that? Well, I'm going to teach you in this tutorial. Who am I? I am Kim. This is Quilt with Kim. You, my lovely, are very welcome. Let's switch camera and go find out how to do it. And we may have Shadow the cat for company today because he is sitting literally just down there. So I might have to maneuver the camera a bit. So here we are with Shadow, who is evidently joining us today. So we'll just work around him because that's the way with cats. Isn't that right, Shads? Let's talk about what you don't need to do or what you shouldn't do first and what I'm trying to teach you here. So let me put my glasses on so I can see. These two little hexes here I have sewn together using a whip stitch, and if you don't know what that is, you probably do know what it is, but you just haven't given it a name yet. But you can see here where I've whip stitched, so that's when you go over the seam at the back here, you will see that you can see the stitches in between the two hexes. Now, I know what you're thinking is that, Kim, I would never use black to sew pale fabrics together. And yeah, I'm with you. I wouldn't use it either. I'm just using the black to demonstrate to you how this works. But if you use your pale thread colour, you will still see the stitches because it is quite difficult to get these completely even. And if I show it up really close to the camera, you can see even when I started here that those stitches aren't very even, and as we get on they're small and they're even, but we can still definitely see them, and we don't want that. Now compare this with the method I'm going to teach you, and I've still used black thread, which you can sort of see on the back here, and this is on the back and it is quite invisible, which is the effect we're after. But on the front, can you see how, even if I hold it right up close, let's get the camera focusing, that black is almost invisible to you. Compare that with the whip stitch, which is over on my left here. You can see the difference between those two stitch lines. And of course, if you did this in your pale thread, that stitch line is going to be completely invisible to, not to the naked eye, you know what I mean? I don't know why I said the naked eye. It's going to be completely invisible. The fact remains is when we look at stitching, we tend to be looking at it from a distance, so nobody will see it, but even close up, you can see how invisible that is. So how do we do that? That is called a ladder stitch, and I'm going to show you exactly what to do. Let's put those to one side, get my thread, which is already threaded up, my needle and thread, which very handily is not going to show against a black cat, is it? But don't worry, I'm just going to put my little sticky thimble on. I'm just going to do a very quick demonstration on the whip stitching so you can see what you are doing, probably. And then we're going to go on to the ladder stitch. Let me show you this. I'm not going to do the full way along. I'm just going to show you what the wrong way of doing it is before we get to the right way. So we're always going to start with a little double stitch. By the way, Shadow is very used to sitting around whilst I've got thread going over him. I don't know why he seems to like it, but he does. Right, so it's going on his ears. So a whip stitch, I'm not going to do this very neat, I just want to show you what it is. So that's where we come in from one side, we pull the needle along, or pull the thread through. Right, so I've gone over, and then you would go over again. This is, I'm trying to negotiate cat's ears and the tail of the thread here. Right, let's get this back into the camera. So we go over the top, we come down to the other side, and we come back again. Get that into place. We've come out onto our left, the needle comes into the right, and we poke it through to the left again. So the thread is out to the left. Shadow's very interested in the loose thread. We come over to the right and come through. This isn't very neat, but you'll recognise this as the whip stitch. Shadow, what's going on? To be completely honest, I had to pause the camera and restart because Shadow was on the move. Anyway, he's moved position and he's now, if I just move the camera, he's just literally sitting here supervising what we're doing. Occasionally he's turning around to check the screen, but anyway, let's carry on. So this is the one that we've just done. This is the whip stitch, which is the one that we do not want to do. What we want to do is a ladder stitch. So whilst the camera was on pause, I've taken the opportunity to snip the thread, and I have put just a little double stitch in to get us going on the new hexes to do a ladder stitch on. How do we do ladder stitch? Let's get these back in camera. So you can see where we have got our thread coming out in the corner there. We are going to go through to the other side, but can you see now I've just picked up that top thread. Let's get the camera focusing. Can you see where we've come through literally one top of those threads on the other hexie, and I'm going to push my needle through, preferably without sticking it into the cat. And when I've done that, pull it tight, and then I'm going to come back in the opposite direction quite close, and I'm picking up the top two threads. Okay, that's a bit too far down. So I want it close and the top two threads. Sorry, Shadow is looking right at me. Can you see how I've gone through one way and I'm going to go back through the top threads in the direction that we have come? And I will push that needle through and pull the thread through. Shadow has just moved, so that makes my life a little bit easier. So we've come through to my left, or the front as it is now. Sorry, I keep going off the top of the camera. So my thread is now towards me, and now I'm going to go back through, picking up those top two threads from this side. We're going through from this side here to the opposite side, and then we're coming back from the opposite side through towards us. So I'm going to push that through, and then I'm going along just a tiny bit, probably about a thread's gap, and I'm picking up two threads right on the top, and it's a thread on each hexie. So it's the threads that are sitting on top of that fold where you're folding it over your template on the back there. So let's push that through. I'm trying to keep this very steady so you can see. It's come towards me. Now I'm going to shuffle along about a thread. It's about a gnat's whisker. If you know any gnats, measure their whiskers, because that's what we're after. You know what Shadow actually wants to do now is go out of the door, because he's now pawing at the door. I'm going to pause this and I'm going to go and let him out, because otherwise he'll get annoying. He's gone. We're all alone again. Okay, so I've pushed the needle through the top, through those threads at the top. We've got a gnat's whisker between the two stitches, and we're literally just picking up that top thread. I'm going to push it through, coming away from me, and then I will come back in the opposite directions, a little gnat's whiskers gap, and I'm picking up those top two threads. Once you've got away from this corner where it's a bit bulky, this is actually quite easy to do. I'm picking up those top two threads, I'm bringing the needle towards me. Then I come along a gnat's whisker and go through in the opposite direction, going away from me. So can you see how this stitching is making a ladder effect? And if you're watching on your phone, you might be better to watch this on your computer or TV, because then it would be blown up for you and you can see in a bit more detail. Can you see how the back of that is very different to the back of our whip stitching there? See how different those two are. And I appreciate I did this really rough and ready just to show you the action of it. but you can see how this makes this little ladder pattern on the back. Okay, as we do that all the way along, I'm just going to do one more stitch, and then if you just bear with me, I'm going to show you on a bit of paper as well, so you've got it fixed in your mind as to what you need to do. I'm coming towards me and push it away from me. It can be quite tempting for your needle to slip down a little bit and pick up more than those top threads, but you want just those top 2 threads because that's how it makes it invisible. With the stitches always just a gnat's whisker away. So if I open that up so far, okay, it's not very neat, is it? But you can see, let's pull that thread taut, you can see how that is beginning to get invisible. Now, I appreciate it's not as neat as the one I did earlier. Let me grab that one, which is there. So you can see this is the one that I did when I was sitting with it close to me and I could see what I was doing and I didn't have a cat or camera in the way. But even so, with a camera and a cat, we're still pretty good, and if I pull that taut it will get even more invisible. Okay, so that's the action you want. Let me grab a piece of paper. I'm going to pause it for a second to show you the direction you're going, and then that should be you good to go. Here we are then. So this is the top of my hexes. So this is the seam that you're looking at just here. So that's that. And what I am doing is I brought my needle up into the corner and I'm going that way, and I'm really going to exaggerate this so that you can see I'm moving along, and that's my gnat's whisker. Yeah, I'm going to draw my gnat. What do gnats look like? Does anybody know? That's my gnat. So I'm going along a gnat's whisker and I'm going back that way, and then I'm coming along another gnat's whisker and I'm going back. I'm doing another gnat's whisker and coming back, and I'm doing that all the way along, preferably in an even way. This isn't very good, is it? This is a good job this isn't a drawing channel, because this isn't going to go very well. But all the way along, I'm just moving along the same little gnat's whisker every time I go along, and when I cross the top of the hexes here, all I'm doing is picking up the top thread, and that is how you make your invisible stitching in between your English paper piecing. So I do hope that has helped, and if it has, please don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell, and I will love you and leave you and look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.